Hello and welcome to the Meeting Your Soul podcast, y'all. It's Farah, your host. And as always, thank you so much for being here. If this is your first episode, if this is your 15th, if this is your 70th or 80th, I'm almost at 80 right now. Hell yeah. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been making these podcasts for the last couple of years, and I have been so grateful for this journey and just the depth that it's allowed me, though, the amount that I've been able to articulate and share my voice and the studies and all of the information that I'm very extremely grateful to have learned through a variety of different authors, personal experiences, my teachers within the spiritual world, and also strangers on the street. Sometimes share little nuggets of truth that you never knew you needed until you heard it, and then you knew you needed to hear it, that you needed to know it. So, and I think that that's the beauty of these practices and the things I like to share is that there's a knowing that comes along that with me, for me. And that's ultimately why I want to gift it to others, is for you to be able to have that same knowing and that strength and that consistency within yourself to be able to handle whatever life throws at you. Don't mind my little kitty cat. This is Cleopatra. Say hi, Cleo. Meow. She's so vocal. She's like constantly meowing. I just saw, hey, Bubba. I just saw this, it was like a meme, and I sent it to a couple of my friends because a lot of my friends have cats. Anyways, I've always been a dog person. I recently got converted, and she is so sweet. She actually a little crazy at 3 a.m. But anyways, she is like, you're like, I may look normal on the outside, but I meow at my cat. And it's true, I do. I don't really meow at her on a regular basis. But yes, today's episode is all about the RAIN method, which was popularized by Tara Brach. And I'm going to go into it of really just how to handle different things that come up and how to ground yourself and apply mindfulness no matter what is coming your way. And that is one of the more challenging things for me, is just to ground. I tend to have, it's like my mind, like what I've recognized recently, and the little life update, is I notice that when something happens that stresses me out or makes me feel out of control, I take this certain approach to like pull the control back into my hands. And it's definitely ego driven, it's ego based, and it doesn't always actually get me where I want to be. And so the RAIN method, and actually what even prompted me to share this, is I actually was just at a retreat for domestic violence and sexual assault victims it's called the Her Network. If you haven't heard of it, please look into it. It is so incredible. The impact that they're making within the community and the tools that they're sharing and just the awareness that they're spreading around things that honestly, trauma that affects so many thousands of people around the world is just so important. And I was so honored to be involved with the process as a whole. And with that also being said, is that I have had the gift of being able to present the RAIN method at the retreat that they just had recently in Montana, which was so incredible. There was a small group of women. We all came together. They all get full rides. So they get scholarships. They're able to come and participate. They get a full week of just being around other women who've gone through different traumatic events and re-establishing their stories and their narratives about what's occurred in a more empowering way. And also just to be able to uncover the depth of what has occurred within their life. And so it was either sexual assault, maybe childhood, maybe adult, maybe a one-time scenario, maybe an ongoing situation, and domestic violence as well. And everyone there needed to have, so then we also had a variety of different volunteers that facilitated workshops, as well as just held space for people as we dove into a lot of really heavy topics, but also created a lot of levity around it too. And I think that that's what I was grateful for, was that I was able to participate. And honestly, I think I brought a lot of sparkle of joy and humor into a week that could have been extremely heavy. And I know that my gifts lie around my ability to talk about really heavy shit and not get bogged down by it. And that's just my life, truly. And my friends know that they can reach out to me no matter what's going on. And it could be some really dark shit, to be honest. And I'm not going to bat an eye. I'm not going to judge them. I'm going to hold space for them, and I'm going to love them no matter what, and hopefully be able to offer a hand to hold while they're in it. I can't fix it for them, but I can definitely be there for them. And that's really important to me with the people I care about, and also with my coaching clients and with all the people that I work with within this profession, even within the yoga world as well. So I am grateful for it. It's definitely a skill set that I have accumulated over the years. I am I was a domestic violence and sexual assault advocate. I used to go into hospitals and support rape victims during their exams, and also just to advocate for them in the medical care system or healthcare system, which we all know is a little fucked up. But then also domestic violence victims, a lot of safety planning, a lot of, okay, figuring out how to get out of something, and how to do so in a safe way, or even to just manage life in an abusive relationship, while creating some type of autonomy and getting their ducks in a row to be able to get out if they needed to, and also recognize the patterning that was occurring that was keeping them there. And as someone who's gone through a lot in my life and have been in domestic violence situations personally, is something that I don't think I recognized how valuable that skill was for me, and how much it actually helped me remove myself from a situation that was really unhealthy and toxic, and would have left me spiraling in pain for the foreseeable future if I didn't get myself out of it. And so I open that up, I become vulnerable, I share that with you, not for any type of sympathy by any means, but a relatability to know that you are not alone if you're experiencing things along those lines. I think that it's more common than not. It has a profound effect on your psyche, it has a profound effect on who you are, and there's not a lot out there that helps you create a life after that, and for myself, not to identify completely with that, and to know that it's a piece of me, but it's not all of me, and that I'm a badass motherfucker at the same goddamn time. Okay? So I say that to you. Also, if you're going through something along those lines, or have, you're not alone. There's a lot of resources out there to help you heal, to be able to create a more healed and centered life after. So this is not the end by any means. And I might actually, I wasn't actually going to plan to do this. The next episode will be about domestic violence and sexual assault, and just like overcoming that, recognizing it, overcoming it, and a lot of the false narratives that get infused within our life because of it. And well, the thing is I know quite a few at the top of my head that I could like just spout out because of my work history and just honestly my pretty intense experience around it. But I do want to stay on track for what the RAIN method was. And then at the end, maybe I'll highlight a few things to make note of, or maybe even create a shorter video. If this is something you're interested in and learning more about, or even talking to someone about, I'm definitely here for you. Schedule a counseling or a consultation call with me, and we can go deeper into it. Okay. Because I think it's something that's vastly under talked about. It's not, there's not as much attention around it as I believe that there should be, especially with how many people it affects. So, there for you, love you, and you're not alone. You really aren't, okay? So, with that being said, the RAIN method. The RAIN method actually can be a standalone meditation too, or it can be integrated into daily life whenever a challenging emotion arises. And just to give you a quick overview, RAIN is like an acronym. So R, recognize what's going on. A, allow the experience to be there just as it is. 1, investigate with interest and care. And then N, nurture with self-compassion. So I'm going to go through those 4 steps, and then we'll talk about how to use that sense of reflection in order to apply it into your life if something comes up. So recognizing what's going on. First and foremost, recognizing means to willingly acknowledge in any given moment a thought, a feeling, a behavior that's affecting you. And this could be a variety of different things. And that's the part that I want to highlight the most, is like recognizing your triggers, knowing what those are for you are extremely important. And if you've had a traumatic event within your life where this trigger comes up and you know what it is, you're kind of familiar with it, you recognize it, then it's a little bit simpler to identify. Sometimes we don't know until we're in it Like, honey, I tell you what, I've been triggered and been like, I didn't even know that trigger was there. And now I am, oh, shivers up my spine, okay? Like, you have no understanding. I've been in it. It's happened to me more times. And especially this last year, I swear every trigger in the book was thrown at me of my own. But that's how we heal. You cannot heal something you don't know that's there. You don't know if you have a gaping wound and you don't see it, how are you supposed to heal it? Like, sometimes it heals on its own to a certain extent, but it might create a really fucking massive scar when it didn't have to. If we tend to it, if we apply Neosporin to it, if we go to a doctor, if we talk to someone about it, we find out different ways to be able to expedite the process in order and for it to be done in a way that's well thought out and intentional. So that's why I bring this all up to you, is because triggers, first and foremost, is something that we can recognize and see. And if you don't know what an emotional trigger is, that's why I was like, I'm reading through my notes. I kind of plotted all of this out already. An emotional trigger is actually just a stimulus that elicits a strong emotional or physical reaction, often related to past trauma or difficult experience. So it could be a sight, a sound, an internal factor, a feeling, a memory. Any of these can create extreme reaction and even sometimes bring you back into the place of whatever occurred the first time through. So understanding your triggers is one thing that I've talked about a few times in the podcast, but is an extremely beneficial journaling exercise to be able to do, because what it often does is it switches us out of our parasympathetic nervous system that makes us feel safe, we feel restored, we feel calm, and it turns it into that more reactive state, and sometimes to the full extent of activating our amygdala and going into fight or flight. And when we're in fight or flight, we cannot use our prefrontal cortex, okay? So we cannot think clearly. We cannot use good critical reasoning skills when we're triggered. We can't. It's our body's, it's a defense mechanisms to keep us safe. We're in fight or flight. We feel that we are in danger. It is life or death. And sometimes even a memory can put us into that state. So the power of mindfulness, the power of this technique in order to approach these types of moments, gives us the conscious choice and willingness and ability to go back into the parasympathetic nervous system, to calm ourselves, to be able to then shift the blood flow back into our prefrontal cortex so that we're able to respond accordingly. And until we give ourselves permission to switch back into that mode, it's really difficult to do so. And a lot of times, a lot of people live in survival mode each and every day. So they're never in a state where they can really fully critically use their full critical reasoning skills until they're extremely relaxed, or they take a bath, or they're, at home, or they're with people that make them feel comfortable and, supported and seen. So there's a lot of practice that comes along with just getting yourself out of that more triggered survival state. And I think first and foremost, it's recognizing what your triggers are and giving yourself the choice and the opportunity and the space to be at peace, to be calm, to feel safe. And creating an environment that supports that, being around people that support that, is the first step towards it. And I always encourage people to be able to create an environment where they feel comfortable. Like, my home is my sanctuary, first and foremost. It's my safe space. It's where I feel comfortable. It's where I want to feel at ease. And then I also have, my core group around me that are those people for me. And then also there is rituals and practices I use in order to keep my mind in a state that's aligned with that more receptive and more feminine, divine feminine, and softer approach. And that soft life is something that I think we're all striving for, we're all seeking, but sometimes we've never seen it, maybe we've never experienced it, so we don't even know how to access it or how to cultivate that within our lives. And so having different rituals and practices around you to be able to just handle each and daily stressors with a more harmonious point of view is critical. I do meditate. I meditate. My main rituals, which I also have a podcast on rituals, is meditation, yoga, movements, walks, spending time in nature, grounding, actually physically being in grass, spending time outdoors, playfulness, having fun, laughter, good food, eating yummy meals, reading. The list goes on. I have journaling. I have a lot of things I've utilized in order to be able to help myself with all of this. And I know that what's effective for me. I know it's the most effective ways for me to do it. And so I just really zero in on all of those. If you don't have them, watch my rituals podcast. It's really helpful. It'll definitely support you in creating that. You can go to my YouTube channel or even just look through the list of episodes, and it'll say cultivating rituals. And that's a really helpful one too. It's also on my website, and I think that one's specified on there too. It's listed, it's kind of called out. Again, if you're looking to establish rituals and want to, have a coaching call with me to be able to figure out what that means, even just a one-on-one session, just one time, I'm happy to do that. I also have the Shine Bright program, which is $222, and it has a habit tracker. It's all these things are actually designed around creating healthy, sustainable habits that support you and maintaining inner peace. So, and building and cultivating confidence. So again, this is all a passion of mine. These are things I just love more than life itself. So this is why I do it and why I think it's so important to understand. So just to loop back around. So we are talking about understanding our triggers, recognizing what they are, and then creating a lifestyle that supports us and bringing us into a more harmonious and relaxed and calm state. Those two things are key for one another because there's always going to be stress, there's always going to be triggers. So how do we approach them? First line of defense, have like rituals that support you no matter what. Second line of defense is when something is out of the norm or maybe takes you into a more extreme state. The RAIN method is an opportunity for you to then be able to understand it, or maybe it was a trigger that you didn't know that you had that you're now aware of, is another opportunity for you to drop back in. So recognizing the first R, recognizing what the trigger is, recognizing the response that you are having within your body gives you the opportunity to lean into mindfulness and hopefully switch out of that more triggered state. So we're going to lean in, we're going to hold space for it, but let's be fucking honest. Who likes being triggered? Who likes feeling stressed? Who likes this feeling where you're like short circuiting? No one does. Okay. So like, don't think that you like recognizing it's going to be like, I'm not laughing at anything other than the fact that myself is like, don't think like you're going to recognize it, but does that mean you're going to like it? Like you can allow the experience to be there just as it is, RA out of rain, but that doesn't mean it's going to be like rainbows and sunshines, honey pie. It's probably not going to be. It's probably like it's a trigger for a reason, and like I'll talk about glimmers later, but like there is a choice to be able to just be with whatever's coming up to the surface, not try to fix it, not try to like make it go away, not try to ignore it, not try to repress it, but to feel into it. So we recognize something that's happening. And then we like dive in, and leaning into extreme emotions, especially in a triggered state, is a courageous feat. So know that it is not for the faint of heart. It is not simple. It is not easy, but it is essential to figure out what you're supposed to learn from it. So recognize the trigger and then allow it to be there. And having your rituals in order to kind of like mitigate the response is helpful. So if you can feel yourself having like a pretty strong reaction and you need to remove yourself, just to be able to lean in, do so. Like go for a walk, go for like movement. So healing, you guys, you have no understand. So like having some type of movement, somatic practice in order to be able to feel into something, but to hopefully regulate it a little bit more, even like slowly let it creep in, or even to remove and eliminate some of that excess energy that's getting created from the emotional response is also a key part of it too. So allowing the experience to be there, the thoughts that you're having without trying to avoid them, without trying to fix them. And then even repeating to yourself, I am safe. I am okay. Everything's going to be just fine, and unless it's truly not, because sometimes it's not. And so I don't want to dismiss that by any means. But if it is just a response where it's not a life or death situation, giving yourself the opportunity to just be in it and to almost self-soothe is really key. Okay. And then that creates the space for a pause. And then when we have the pause, when we have the moment of reflection, That's where that intuitive insight comes in. That's when those like deep downloads, that's when the lesson is able to be seen and heard. And that's when we go into I, where we actually investigate with interest and with care. To investigate is to call on your natural curiosity, the desire to know the truth, and to switch to a more your focus attention into the present moment. So let's just be in it. So we recognize the triggers occurring. We're allowing the experience to be there. We're in it. We're like, okay, we're not trying to push it away. We're dropping in. We're taking deep breaths. Breath is key within this. It is my lifesaver. I'm like, we'll sit there and be with something and I'll breathe for a while. And then I have the space and capacity and even the desire to investigate further. So then I like lean in. I'm like, okay, let's feel into this. What's coming up? What is requiring your attention? How am I experiencing this in my body? Where do I feel it in my body? If I were to give it a color or a name, or to identify the feeling in exactness, or even the state in my life and who I was when maybe I'm going back to, and that's why I'm feeling so triggered. Like I've recently been triggered back. A lot of my relationship triggers stem from childhood and from high school, and so that's when I started, dating. And so for me, it's like I keep having to go back into this version of myself when I was in high school and what occurred within that and why I felt unheard, why I felt the need to respond the way that I did in order to gain control back, the reasoning or even the baseline for why I continue to seek out relationships that reinforce a belief system about myself. And then also just being really honest with myself about what that belief system is and why I'm cultivating those relationships that resemble that. Like there's a lot that can come up to the surface if we're willing to investigate it. And I think that that's why when we're in this more triggered state, to give yourself the freedom to be able to be in it, to roll around in it, to feel into it, and to really see like, okay, why is this coming up? And what unhealed part of me is asking to be healed? And that's so beautiful. It's such a wonderful practice if we're willing to lean into it. And if you allow yourself to be in that state, you'll be unstoppable. That's what it comes down to. That's where we access our deepest seeds of creativity, our deepest seeds of knowledge, of wisdom, of growth, is when we're able to see it at face value, lean into it and learn from it. Whatever the inquiry, your investigation will be the most transformational if you step away from the conceptualization of it and bring your primary attention into the felt sense of it. So one thing that a lot of people do, and I know I do sometimes, is I over intellectualize something. I'd be like, well, why do I feel this way? And what's going on? And what's the correlation here? And I literally talk myself out of feeling because I'm trying to analyze it to the fullest extent. And that's not very useful. So if you tend to go on that road, which, baby girl, you're not the only one. I don't even like that song. I don't like that song. I don't know where it came from. It's a little messaging, I swear. Anyhow, but if you are trying to overthink it and like put it into a small little pretty box with a bow on top, get messy. Do not try to think too much about it. Feel into it. Allow yourself to just be in that state so that you can take what you need to learn from it. This past weekend, I got really triggered, and honestly, this last week I've been pretty triggered, and I've been like really I'm like, okay, I gotta show up differently. I can't handle this the way I've handled this in the past. And so I had this moment of just insecurity, like an insecurity came up to the surface for me. And I was like, okay, what would I have done in the past? I would have clenched. I would have gripped harder. I would have tried to control it. I would have tried to conceptualize this to gain the power back, to get back into the lead, to be able to say, no, I'm not insecure. I'm in control. You're insecure. You're doing this. Project, turn it around. And so this time I was like, nope. Absolutely not. I cannot do that. I refuse to do that. So instead of it, I was like, I had to just be with it and like honestly spend a lot of time in stillness, a lot of time in silence, a lot of time feeling into it, a lot of walks. I conceptualize it to a certain extent because I think for me, internally processing things does help so that I don't carry it. And so I don't subconsciously apply that into my programming of my belief system. So, first and foremost, I had to be really honest about what the belief was and what that unhealed part of me was trying to show me without me just going into the deep analysis paralysis of it all, but more or less to just feel and to feel deeper. And, I was talking to a friend the other week and she was like, Fair, you don't really allow yourself to feel a ton because you're always conceptualizing things. And so for you, it's like me feeling deeply. I get really scared to feel super deeply. It overwhelms me sometimes because I feel so much that I was like, okay, I'm just going to feel it. I'm going to feel it. And what does that information have to show me? But in the context of breath, of body, of embodiment. And how can I embody my full essence? And the only way I can do that is if I feel fully. And the only way I feel safe to feel fully is if I know that I can manage the stressors that come up with my life with more ease. And how do I do that? Create rituals and practices to support me, to be able to recognize when a trigger is coming up, to be able to be with it, to hold space for it, to love myself through it. And that's N. Nurture with self-compassion. Self-compassion begins naturally arising in moments when you recognize you are suffering. If you're sad, if something's hurting you, and you're like holding space for yourself, please show up with love. Please, 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 please show up with love. You are so deserving, well deserved to have your joy, to be treated with kindness. And it always starts with you. It always starts with how you treat yourself, is how you teach and allow others to treat you as well. And leaning into self-love in the moments, especially when we're triggered, especially when those insecurities arise, especially when we might even have seeds of doubt that's telling us we're not enough or that we're not good enough or that we can't do it, is that moment where we reprogram it. We change the narrative, we change the scope, we bring it back into a place of living fully and intentionally nurturing your inner life with self-care so that we can sustain all that we have on our plates. Life is wild. We all have a lot going on. And so when you're doing 20 million things and when you are navigating life in a way that is grounded and inspired and living life to the fullest, there's no other way. Yourself as you move through all of these things. And if you have a trigger that's coming up for you, just be able to, so let's go through one. So if you are experiencing a trigger, and I will share one with me. So one that I'm trying to think of one that's come up recently where I've kind of went through this method. I had a friend who I wanted her to come to something. We wanted to do something together. And when she doesn't reply to my text, it's like, what are my triggers? I know this about myself. It is. So it's like, what are my triggers? And I'm like, she doesn't give me an answer one way or the other. And I'm like, girl, can you just like let me know what's going on? Like just like respond. And so then it's like, I'm pretty good about it for the most part, but sometimes I do get triggered by it. And then I'm like, there's one of two things that happens. One, and like it depends on if I'm triggered or not. So one, I like dismiss it. I'm like, whatever, she must be busy. It's whatever. Two, then I'm like, what the fuck? I get upset, I get annoyed, and then I will like judge her in some way, or like I'll think like, oh, she isn't really like, we're not even really that good of friends, or like I'll go down that road, that narrative in my mind of like, oh, she just like, she doesn't really like me. If we were really friends, she would show up or she would respond. And then, or so that's one I'll do. Be like, it's the thought pattern that comes up. So a trigger can be a thought pattern too, and our response can be a thought pattern. So, and it's the neural pathways within our brain. We establish kind of correlations within our mind. So we have things that we believe, and then we get reinforced. And so when when you have something like that occur, then it's like, okay, if X happens, this is Y and Z. And when you're trying to shift what Y and Z are, you have to train yourself, and that takes time for you to create a new neural pathway. It's literally science. So, like, you have to change the direction of where your thoughts go, because there's natural, like, synapses that connect with one another that lead you to what you are believing to be true. And that's, again, it's science. It's how we establish patterns and habits. It's how we continue to show up for the world and observe the world in the most efficient way possible. So to change the thought pattern is to say, if she's not replying, then it's like literally to stop, recognize, okay, I'm feeling insecure. This hurt my feelings. I'm recognizing that I'm having a reaction to it. Let me just be here with that feeling. Like, okay, like I am obviously like, where's this showing up for my body? Where do I feel this in my body? Where do I, am I getting tense? Is my thoughts starting to race? Am I starting to feel kind of like sick or like kind of gross? I investigate what, where's this thought pattern coming from? Why do I think that? Do I have like this like insecurity that she doesn't want to be my friend? Or do I have a feeling that, there are people in my life aren't really there for me, like, do I feel like, unsupported? Do I feel like I'm not being heard? Do I not like investigate? There's a lot of things that can come up. And that's why I wanted to go through an example of this, because, like, we all have a lot of stuff that have happened in our lives where people have hurt us. We've felt betrayed. We've been, taken advantage of. There's moments that you're not just doing this for no reason. You're doing this because you've been taught this, because you believe it to be true. So, and it's been shown to be true. So it's really hard to believe that there can be something other than what we've already experienced. But that's the beauty of life, is that each moment is unique. Each moment can be something new. Each moment and experience can be something that's completely different than anything else you've ever even witnessed. So, like, the more we open ourselves up to possibility in that way, and the receptivity of holding space for ourselves so that we can be present, ultimately is what we need to do. So that we can be present, then we can then move forward with care for ourselves and for the people around us. And then that way we're showing ourselves love. I am a great friend, like changing the thought pattern. I am a great friend. People show up for me. People love me. And there must be something more going on for her not to reply. And 9 times out of 10, there is. I just didn't know what it was at the time. And so then once I find out, it's like, oh, okay, that makes more sense why that happened. And sometimes people do it, are intentionally shitty as well. That also happens. Like, there's a lot of different ways for this to appear. But first and foremost, what can you control? What can you focus on? What can you zero in on? And don't worry about the fucking rest of it. Okay? Because there's only so much that we can't control within our lives, and we get to have the choice of what we direct our energy towards and what we continue to amplify within our lives. And finish up from here, but I think that ultimately journaling about these different exercises gives you an opportunity to understand them on a deeper level for yourself. So maybe even writing through what a few triggers are, and then coming up with very specific coping skills to be able to manage when these do appear for you. So to say, like, okay, I know this is a trigger for me. This is how I've reacted in the past. So how can I react in the future? And how do I want to respond in the future? And then giving yourself the choice to be able to sit back, to be able to receive the input, to go through the RAIN method. And then from that point, to be able to then respond accordingly and from a more conscious and intuitive space. And then when you do that, you take the control back, you take that power back, and you are able to approach life from a more grounded spot. And it's a great place to be, because then that's where we can integrate these lessons, we can grow, we can find the glimmers of life more often. And so a glimmer is actually the opposite of a trigger. It's when you see a moment and you're inspired and you're just at peace and you feel like you've like just witnessed a lot of beauty. And so those are those moments where we feel like just like this instant sense of relief. And that's what we're looking for more. So I'm looking for the glimmers, and I hope that you can find some glimmers within your life to be able to balance out all the other stuff that's going on, so that you can hopefully live in that beautiful essence of who you truly are, and allow that to be seen and to be experienced not only by the people around you, but most importantly by yourself. So Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Let me know if you have any questions at all. Happy to go through it. Check me out on the gram at Ferrachino, Ferrachino, and then Ferrachino is also my website. You can always schedule a free discovery call with me for 30 minutes just to check in to see if we would be a good fit. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.